Hello. Hello, welcome. Welcome to the creativity stage. I am Virginia Barnes, and I'm here to introduce Julie from Puma, and also Jack from adam&eveDDB. And we're going to hear about Puma's creative leap into creative marketing. But before that, we're going to watch a short film, and then they'll come on stage and talk to us.
When the pressure goes up, I put it down. Hitting at a 9.5, I shook the ground. It's that chef's kiss. Boy, I'm cooking now. Watch out, pull it off, never get pushed around. I
Check these bad boys out.
lights, camera, action, start the movie. Don't you leave the last part's a doozy. A star's born, I'm acting awfully bougie. I can't hear you, the cash is talking to me. I let the beast come now. I've come to rumble. You run your mouth, I run the jungle. I run the jungle. Let the beast come out. Who want test the bad man? Let the beast come out. Who want test the bad man? Let the beast come out. Let the beast come out. Let the beast come out. Night time is when the feast come out. You don't want to be here to see sundown. Better say a prayer, you need one now. There's one rule, I'm the one true. Highness, your move. Which side of the rapper you gon' choose? My lions are dying to hunt you. Let me clarify it if you're confused. My house, I run the jungle. You run your mouth, I run the jungle.
Well done. Well done. Terrific.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Really happy to be on this stage and to see such a full room. That's really cool. We are here today to talk to you about how Puma got on a journey to become a little bit bolder in creativity. So my name is Julie Legrand, and I lead the global brand Puma, the brand strategy work at Puma.
And I'm Jack. I am part of the planning team, and we've been working with Julie and Puma for around a year now.
Great. So before we start digging into the topic of our creativity, I wanted to give you a little bit of background of why actually we are here today to talk to you about Puma. It all started a couple of years ago. I was at that time living in Stockholm. I was CMO of H&M, and I got this phone call someone asking me if I would be interested in joining Puma. And the task was, okay, we need help to turn around this brand. So I became silent for a few seconds because I really had to think. And I realized that when I was a student, a little bit more than 20 years ago, I used to wear Puma. And I also remembered suddenly that all my friends used to wear Puma. And then I thought, but I had completely forgotten about it. And I think this is really what led me to accept the challenge, because if you're someone who's worked in building brands over more than 20 years, what an amazing challenge to be asked to actually turn around a brand like Puma. So the challenge was really, how can we let the cat out of its cage? And let me explain to you a little bit what we mean by that. So I'm going to tell you a story today about two topics. The first one is the heart, and the second one is the goldfish. Now you guys might be thinking, okay, now she's talking about a cat, then a fish. What the hell is going on? Well, no, I'm not going to tell you about a tale about certain animals, no. What I'm going to talk to you about is actually just brand building. And why first the heart? Because when I joined Puma a year and a half ago, me and my team, we ran a very large study to understand the health of the brand. And we found out that more than 60% of people around the world would not care if Puma disappeared. Ouch. I mean, that really hurts. Imagine the face of the CEO. I'm like 3 weeks in the company, and I go to his office and I tell him, this is the outcome of our first study. Most people would not care. So clearly, we had one big challenge, which was how can we build a stronger emotional connection with consumers? And then the second part of the story is the goldfish. So again, another study to understand, okay, do people have Puma in their minds? And the answer was, what most people internally at Puma were saying was, yes, everybody knows Puma. I'm sure in the room, pretty much everyone knows Puma, because we've been around for 77 years. But when checking on spontaneous awareness and top-of-mind awareness, the numbers were quite frankly disastrous. 4% global top-of-mind awareness on a brand like Puma that's been around for 77 years. So that was the second big challenge. How can we cut through the clutter, earn attention of people, make sure the brand is in their minds? Now, it wasn't all bad, right? Because I'm sure many of you know Puma, especially in the UK, we're doing quite a lot of things in football. But so we realized that because of our 77 years of existence, we actually had gold in our hands. We did another study. Yes, I really love studies and consumer insights. And we found out that the cat logo is actually one of the strongest assets globally in our industry. And that was really surprising, because if you think about a very low top-of-mind awareness, but everyone recognizes the cat, and actually people have a very positive feeling about the cat logo. So we had a really strong starting point. And maybe something that you guys didn't know is we have a very rich history of pioneering innovation in sport performance. And we had in our history this bad habit of breaking certain rules of innovation. And that led us to having a bad habit of being banned very often. So we were banned because we made shoes, running shoes that made runners too fast in competition. We were also banned because we dressed certain national football teams in onesie in football, which had never been seen before. So we have this history of being quite bold, actually, in our innovations. We also have this history of pioneering athletes, but not any athletes. We were alongside people who reached greatness in their careers, but that's not the reason why we were by their side. The reason is that we valued their personality. You look at a Maradona or Pelé or Tommy Smith, it's people who had the courage to be themselves and didn't really care what others thought. They had the courage to stand up for their beliefs, and they were free spirits. And this is something that we as a brand always recognized and supported. And lastly, we also were very innovative and creative when it comes to sports style. Did you know that in the 70s we created the first basketball signature shoe? Or that we created the first collaboration between a fashion brand and a sport brand with Jill Sander? So we have a really, really rich history. But what happened to us is what happens to many, many brands, is that when you're on a growth journey, at some point, you lose yourself because you want to grab any opportunity for growth. And so over the past couple of decades, we've shifted back and forth between sport performance and sport style or fashion. And quite frankly, we've lost consumers on the way because we were unclear. And not to say that we haven't been on a growth path. Actually, during that period, the company grew from 3 billion to 9 billion euros of turnover. That is significant. But what had been missing all the way is the importance of brand building and building that emotional connection, which is why nowadays, we are in a situation where we need to do this. And that's why actually I got this phone call, because it is a time to actually build back this strong brand. And I'm pretty sure that not many of you knew about the stories I just told about our past. So we needed to make more people aware of this. So quite simple then, what's the recipe to do this? So we want to turn Puma into a love brand again. And there are 3 things that we set out to do. First, know our consumer better than anyone else. Being clear on what we stand for, what's our DNA. And then lastly, how do we speak to consumers? So we spoke to 10,000 consumers around the world. I told you I really like consumer insight and studies, so 10,000 consumers, and we learned so much about what makes people move. Why do people do sport? Why do they engage into the sports style category as well? But what we learned that was really a big unlock for us was actually this insight, which is that what matters the most to people in sport is actually to be their true self. We thought that what mattered was, okay, I want to be more creative, I want to have the freedom to break the rules and be rebellious, because we had been that rebellious brand. But what consumers told us is way simpler. Just let me be myself, and I will reach my goal. And if you think about sport, I mean, people who are not in sync with themselves or not enjoying what they're doing, they might reach or win a couple of times, but it's not sustainable. You need to be who you are in order to succeed. So we use this as a starting point in this work. And then the second thing we did is look into our past. I'm a really strong believer that in order to win in the future, you need to start by looking at your past. And that's exactly what we did. And when we looked at the few decades of our history and what has happened in the world of sport, what we saw is that in sport in the past few decades, there had been one way to talk about sport. Only one way to win. You had to work hard, push through, focus, be in control in order to win. And sometimes it meant losing yourself, but it didn't matter as long as you won. And then I started flipping through our archives. We have this beautiful archive book that we created, and we also have a museum in the office. And when you walk through that museum and when you start to flip through the archive book, you realize that Puma always had a different belief than this standard belief in sport. And it's a belief that greatness begins with people and with the courage to actually be who you want to be. And it was really a gold mine. I mean, as a marketer, you look through those pages, and I found this stuff, and I thought I should bring it to you, because again, probably none of you have heard of this, but this is how Puma used to talk when Puma was at its best. We were really serious about sport and athletes, but we didn't take ourselves seriously. We had that twinkle in the eye. We talked about taking Boris Becker and Martina Navratilova to court. We talked about the ruthless pursuit of fun when talking about a track and field champion. And we talked about the happy chemicals that run through your brain. I mean, that was like in the 90s. We were really different. And this was really the aha moment for me, when everything clicked, when I realized we know that consumers, what matters to them is to be their true self, and we as a brand has always championed that. And then I found this, and it was that this is it moment when we said, okay, now that we know what story we want to tell to people, we need help. So we came to our friends at Adam and Eve and asked them to help us out on how can we translate this creatively into advertising, and starting with our running category.
Cool. Yeah, I remember how excited we all were when we got the brief. It just felt like a really fresh and fun take on sport, which, to Julie's point, probably felt like it was going one way for a bit too long, a bit too serious, a bit too gritty. And we had the chance to sum it up in a platform or a line, maybe a line that would last longer than our careers, hopefully. But we inevitably wrote many, many lines. Eventually, we landed on Go Wild. And I think when we saw it, we immediately knew there was something in it. We liked that it, felt like a bit of an invitation to get out there, just to let loose, don't hold back. We like that it's a bit of a call to action too. I'm a strategist, so I feel like I should say some more smart things, but also the logo is just a big cat, so I don't really know how many other brands could own the idea of wild more than Puma. It felt very distinct and true for the brand. So yeah, I mean, and the more we've kind of sat with it for the last year, I think the more excited we've gotten thinking about all the ways it could kind of come to life for different parts of the Puma brand. But to Julie's point, the first kind of cab off the rank was running. I think it's a category that Puma's been building a lot of momentum in for the last few years, to the point now where their technology is kind of genuinely up there with the best and can kind of potentially even promise a new PB for a runner. But I remember in the early days, there was a workshop. I think maybe half the room were runners, half weren't. And I was just sitting there. I'm not a runner, but I was just sitting listening to everybody describe these amazing, incredible feelings of how good running is. It's freeing, it's liberating, it's the lightest feeling you'll feel on earth. And Julie, I think it was you at one point who very politely stopped us and got us to pause and just ask, if we're honest with ourselves for just a little bit, is this kind of kind of bullshit. Like, running's fucking hard. Like, it's genuinely not pleasant at points. And I was very relieved to hear that, because that week I had recorded a run so slow that Strava thought it was a hike. So I was very relieved, but I think more importantly, that actually isn't a joke, that was true. But I think it also was a good push for us to just pause and actually be a bit more honest about what the insight was. And I think it just helped clarify that, yes, running is fucking hard, but you go through it and you get to the end and you feel amazing and you want to do it again. And I think that was a bit of an unlock for us. And if you're wondering what this book is, Mark, who couldn't be here today, our ECD, he actually found a fantastic quote which kind of summed it up really nicely, which is, "You never regret a run." So we felt really good about that, and I think the more we thought about it, the more excited we got, but we knew if we wanted to own this space of the runner's high, we had to do it in a way that felt credible to Puma, because anyone could say it, but why could Puma really own it? So we went back to the tech team, we spoke to the innovation guys at Puma, and they explained to us that the nitro foam in the shoe is literally designed to give you more energy returns. So the more you leap, the more you stride, you get more back out of yourself. And that was a bit of a click. So we got to this proposition, a line, a formula, whatever you want to call it, but basically the promise for Puma. So Puma unleashes the energy inside you so you can feel the runner's high. And I think what we quite like about that is that the promise is very credible. It's very performance-focused, but the benefit isn't that you can just run a bit further. It's a bit more emotional, a bit bigger. So we all felt really good about that. We were way too excited to go back into creative, explore some ideas, and I think probably within a week or two, we'd got back in front of the Puma team to share some stuff that we were really excited by. If anyone, I think everyone's basically in the creative field, but I think we all have that meeting where you feel like it's going really well, like you just feel like you're just nailing it. That was not this meeting. I thought it was, but it wasn't. We'd kind of gone through each idea one by one, feeling like silently patting ourselves on the back. And it's all well and good. We've got some polite nods, and I think someone on the Puma side at the end said the words that I don't think any creative ever wants to hear, which is, it's all just a little bit boring. And Mark, who still talks about it to this day, it's been a year, but he genuinely has made a vow since to never put a boring idea in front of Puma. And to his credit, I don't think he has. But I do like to think that sometimes he wakes up in a cold sweat thinking about this, because it was a bit of a light bulb for us. It obviously hurt our egos, but I think what was really cool is it's exactly what we needed to hear, because to stand out in the category, we genuinely needed to be different, but also this take on sport that was more joyful, more fun, this idea of go wild with so much potential. We wanted to live up to it with an idea that felt as fun as those kind of thoughts. We didn't want people just to think about the runner's high. We wanted them to see our ad and want to get out there and go run themselves. So we went back to the drawing board for a few more weeks, and eventually Fabio, one of our creatives, he came back to us and he showed us this. Afroman, and his smash hit song from the year 2000, Because I Got High. Could we rewrite that song to be about all the ways that a runner will put aside life and prioritize not chasing PBs, but chasing that incredible runner's high? I think when we saw it at first, we immediately knew we wanted to present it. It spoke to the brief. It would be catchy as hell. He's wearing Pumas. So for a lot of reasons, it felt really right. But I think deep down, we kind of knew it was probably a bit too out there. So yeah, we did the thing that any responsible agency does. You present 3 or 4 ideas that are very responsible, very nice, you'd be pretty happy to make. And then you slip this one in as a bit of a wild card. Hey guys, we just had an extra thought. Not really expecting it to go any further, but genuinely during the presentation, I think Puma stopped us and actually instantly on the spot told us that's what we need to do. And I actually think it surprised us in the best way possible, because I think it said to us that Puma saw in this what we saw in it, which is something that had potential to be really fun and fresh for the category, but also done in the right way, still feel very credible for Puma. So I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to show you the ad. But just before I do, one very quickly thing. I think what we were deliberately trying to do was have the really playful song, but make sure that the credible part was still there. So you saw serious runners seriously chasing their high. We didn't even hire actors who ran. We actually just looked for people in running clubs to really genuinely present the runner's high in as an authentic way as possible.
I was gonna sleep in late, but then I got high. I was gonna let that heal, but then I got high. I just wanted to walk the dog, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, but then I got high, but then I got high, but then I got high. but then I got high. I was gonna text my ex, but then I got high. I was gonna drive to work, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, hey, but then I got high, but then I got high, but then I got high. Ah, da, 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 da. Yeah, hey, because I got high, because I got high, because I got high.
This is just a very quick point to say we also try to feel distinct in our stills as well. You know, like dynamic angles, like fun, playful lines that paired well with that serious moment of exhaustion and relief and high. But yeah, we're very proud that this is the kind of launch moment for Go Wild.
Thank you. I was told 5 minutes ago we had 5 minutes left, so I will try to speed up. Anyway, we're melting. So but just to finish on results. So most important, actually, is we loved the idea, but how did consumers react to it? We did a bunch of System 1 tests around the world, and for those who don't know how it works, this is actually really cool because it's showing the ad to consumers, in this case in Germany, and then it tracks the emotional response of consumers here at the top, and also the brand recognition. And you remember the heart and the goldfish? Really, this is what we're trying to achieve here. So really to cut through the clutter and create an emotional connection, and to create high brand recognition and awareness. And it's pretty outstanding to see that we create really high positive emotional connection with happiness and surprise all the way to the end, and even increasing at the end. This is what you want your advertising to do. You want people to stay with you and to want to listen and watch your story the whole way. So that was pretty outstanding, and we tested this in Mexico, in the US, in India, in Germany, even in Saudi Arabia, and the results were the same everywhere. So we knew we were onto something. Now let's watch this video to see how it came to life.
Puma and Afroman might have the campaign of the year on their hands.
The high is at the finish line.
We're in Boston, we're at the high point. Let's go and check it out.
So we took it way beyond just a film. We actually ambushed the Boston Marathon. We had an event location 200 meters from the finish line called the High Point. We organized a run at the Shanghai GP on the tracks with Charles Leclerc. So all over the world we did that, and then we looked really amazing in our own store channels and e-com. Quickly jumping to the result, I think this is the most rewarding one. So you can see through this when a creative works and cuts through the clutter. We had almost 70% of viewers on YouTube, skippable YouTube ads, who actually watched until the end. That's more than 25 points above industry average. So it's truly outstanding. Also, positive sentiment was fantastic. We moved actually from the middle neutral to actually more positive feeling about the brand. And quickly to close, what is really nice to see is that we're starting to see this in business numbers. I just want to point out a market share growth of almost 40% in the last period on our running footwear in Europe, and a massive increase in our sales in running. So this is just to close the story to say that you all know that brand building is a journey, and you don't solve and turn around a brand with just one campaign. But if you're very clear and have a clear diagnosis on what are your challenges, in our case, really creating that emotional connection and earning attention, cutting through the clutter. Don't forget we're a challenger brand. We don't have the budgets of our competitors, so we needed to be really crystal clear on how to do that. And that's what we have started to do, and more to come, so stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.